Well, stress or anxiety can often lead us to eat more as a coping strategy. Physically, emotional eating can cause obesity and other health-related problems, but it may prevent you from addressing your emotions. Let's bring in nutritionist Nick Nation. Nick, good afternoon to you.
Hi, Michael.
What exactly is emotional eating and why do we turn to food to cope?
Well, emotional eating is really it's a form of eating that's performed when you're not actually hungry. So usually it's in the presence of emotions such as happiness, sadness, loneliness, anxiety and depression. We really turn to it because when we do eat food, it actually dulls down our stress hormones. And there's a little neurotransmitter that's released when you have a little piece of chocolate versus a little piece of kale, may I add, that releases the neurotransmitter serotonin. And that's the thing that really makes us feel better. But unfortunately, it's short-lived.
Now, look, I've got to be honest. I would think most of us would have, at some stage, had this. Is that a fair assessment?
Definitely. And I think that if we're really not aware of how much we console and cajole ourselves, how much we reward ourselves with food. So it's definitely worth a think about. Yeah,
the chocolate topping going on top of the ice cream, it always gets me. Now, how difficult is it to stop the habit?
Habits, one of the hardest things to break in the whole entire world, whether it's about food or anything else that you've developed. And for people that these habits can actually stem all the way back to childhood. I remember when I was a boy, and I remember cutting my knee when I was on a skateboard, and my mum and dad used to give me chocolates. Now, all of a sudden, when I'm feeling sad or stressed, all of a sudden I'm reaching towards the chocolate. So it is really hard, but it is possible to break a habit. Yeah,
and I get the happy bits too. You're on a bit of a high and you think, right, let's get stuck in. Let's reward ourselves for it. Have you got some tips, Nick, to try and break the cycle?
Yeah, for sure. I think just being aware, first and foremost, of your behaviour chain, which leads you to emotionally eat. So what's the trigger? What's the thought that you have in response to that trigger? What's the emotion that you're experiencing, and can you experience it differently? Then what's the action, what's the consequence? So being aware of that is really, really key. But when it comes down to it, to put it in simple terms, distraction techniques. So emotions are fleeting. They do go away after time. So if you can give someone a call, it doesn't even have to be about food. You don't even have to talk to them about food. You could do some exercise, some meditation, some box breathing, and the list goes on. Whatever works for you, just to take your mind off eating for that short period.
It is common sense. It's interesting. Just one final question. Without notice, though, there's so much about cooking, eating, TV, social media, everywhere we look, and it relates so much to how we feel, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. Food brings us all together, but it can also destroy us in terms of chronic diseases that you were mentioning before.
Yeah, Nick, it's a fascinating subject. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, Michael.